So when you go through, do you do SEAL qualification training? And as part of that, did you have the SEAL leadership course in there? Yeah.
We did. So that was the first time that I met
Okay.
Rafe, actually. So Rafe was the officer in charge of the junior officer
Shout
training
out to
course,
Fridman.
and it was awesome for me. And I've told Rafe this: the instructors at Buds were awesome. I mean, what you wanted to see as a young guy who dreamed of being a part of that community. They were just animals, and very professional, but just savage in the best sense of term. Guys that you looked up to. Uh, the officers that were running the phases at the time, not so inspiring. Didn't really participate in the evolutions, didn't really show any face, didn't have a whole lot of qualities that I personally wanted to emulate. So I'm kind of going from phase to phase thinking, all right, the instructors are great, but what are all the officers about in this community? And then I get to JOTC and I meet Leif and I'm like, okay, solid, like we're good. And then, who does he bring in the first week to give us the leadership talk? He brings in Jocko the first week to give us a leadership talk. So I was like, check. All right. There's some, the officer community is thriving. So awesome. So yeah, we went through JOTC. And so it's Buds, JOTC, SQT. And then once you graduate SQT, you check into your first SEAL team.
Okay. And that's SEAL Team 7. That's where we link up.
SEAL Team 7.
Nice. Then we get I think that was that Jocko's last land warfare that we did? Was he turning over on that?
It was. He was turning over with his predecessor after that.
Yeah. So we did it.
Yeah, so we got full benefit that last.
That was good. I had Jocko before that for my for my platoon commander one, and then for the troop commander one as well. But yeah, what was it like checking in at 7? Did you choose 7?
It was awesome.
Did you have to do a wish list, and when did you do the wish list?
So you did a wish list in SQT, but the wish list was just East Coast or West Coast. So it's basically just choose what coast you want to be on. So very fortunately for me, definitely that first platoon definitely set me up as far as the rest of my career goes. Just the personalities that were involved and the lessons that I got learned. So I had nothing to do with it. It was just, I'm assuming luck of the draw where I ended up. But checking a SEAL Team 7, day one is definitely an intimidating experience because all of y'all had just got back from deployment. So, we're watching these guys walk around that, we wanted to join their ranks. And, at least for me, I idolized, everyone that I saw in the hallway. So it was intimidating, but, day one, Master Chief sat us down, basically gave us the rules of the road, which I thought was great. And then day two, they brought in all of y'all and basically told us whose platoons you were all going into. And, that started that whirlwind tour from there.
Man, what was our first, where did we go first? Did we do a land warfare first?
Warfare, where you should start.
I think that's a good way to go.
It is the absolute best place to start is land warfare. We started at land warfare. 2 out of my 3 deployments, our training cycle, we started with land warfare, which is the absolute best way to start.
I think for whatever reason, and for those listening, there's different troops, and so somebody starts at land warfare. That means there's, let's say, 2 others that can't do that because it's already full, and so they start with close quarter combat or whatever, and then you rotate. But yeah, I think almost all of mine started with land warfare. One of them maybe didn't, but definitely beneficial to start there, work out the SOPs. That's where you're going to really get to know everybody, especially when you're tired and doing the full mission profile stuff. And so I think it's beneficial to start with that one. So we kicked it off out at Nyland.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What do you remember about that?
To this day, and when I was running the training command later on, I never missed an FTX for either SAUER or land warfare, but the place that I spent the most as the officer in charge of training was land warfare, because it's just a special place in my heart, but also I really do, like you said, it's where all the SOPs are formulated. It's where you get to see who is who. You get to see it's kind of where reputations are built, I think, at least on the West Coast. So what I remember from it is just, one, getting to perform as a platoon was so much fun. Getting to kind of operate in this unit and do all these things that I always thought we were going to do. It was kind of like achieving the goal, basically, if you will, of, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be, only 12 times harder than I thought it was going to be. So, I mean, Buds was hard, but there's no doubt that there were times at land warfare that I was as exhausted, if not more exhausted, than I ever was going through the selection pipeline. And I just remember, we went through the summer. All of my land warfares were summer, by the way. And, Nyland, California, it's 115 degrees, 120 degrees some days. And you're out there in the middle of the day running through the desert doing all these different training evolutions. And, my biggest takeaway was what that does to your platoon when you get to go through something like that is almost unmeasurable when you get to go through some challenging, hard times like that, when the only key to success is you got to pull together as a unit and perform, because there's no one person that's going to get your platoon through that training. Everybody has to be doing their job the entire time.
Yep. And so many great lessons from training, obviously, that filter from real world, but for leaders, especially, like if you're just, if you're brand new E4, you just don't want to mess up. Like I remember when I was enlisted and I just got out there, first thing, just don't mess up. Point. And that was before we had some guy walking around with an iPad, hitting the button and having those different targets pop up. And you can see, I think you could see like muzzle flash on some of them or something like that. And then they could put them down and put these other ones up. And now you're caught in an L ambush. And before, you were just walking around at night and you obviously saw silhouette targets right here, like to your left. And you knew like any given moment, someone was going to throw like the flash crash or the popper out there and you're going to contact left and just do your thing. But a little different on the officer side of the house, but I'm glad that I got to just be a gun in the fight back in the day. And then as an officer, got to go through it again, right about the time that we were evolving a little slowly into that individual movement technique and all the rest of it, because it was all based, obviously, as you know, on Vietnam tactics from back in the day up until really September 11th. And then we started to evolve. We did it a little slower. East Coast got a little bit ahead of the West Coast. And so I got to do some of that individual movement technique a couple of years before it came out to the West Coast. So when they were introducing it to the West Coast, I had already done that and very comfortable with people not being on a line in training, when in real life, obviously you're not just going to fall down in line and not crawl to the rock that's like 3 feet to your right a little bit forward to get behind some cover. But back in the day, you would just be there online, more about safety, but still that volume of fire, just like Vietnam, and then, make the call and move on from there. But for leaders in particular, like great for new guys, like don't mess up, do my thing. But for leaders, you have to not mess up. Like you have to do a lot more than just not mess up for leaders, especially for a brand new leader thrown in there, squad commander, when everybody's like looking at you to make a call, platoon commander looking at you to make a call, and being able to pull yourself out of that fight, as look around, evaluate the situation, take a breath, look around, make a call, obviously, as Jocko passed along to us, which is great advice, not just for being in Nyland, California, in the middle of the night in a simulated firefight, but for life in general.